Every opinion you've ever formed started as a guess, and your brain has spent every day since trying to prove that guess was right. That's not a metaphor. That's not poetry. That is the literal, documented function of how your perceptual system handles incoming information. Your brain doesn't process the world and then hand you a neutral report. It starts with what you already believe, and it builds the world around that belief like scaffolding around a building that was never inspected. You're not seeing reality. You're seeing a projection that your nervous system has been reinforcing since the first time you made up your mind about something. And the reason you feel so sure about the things you believe isn't because you've examined them carefully. It's because your brain has been quietly deleting everything that disagrees. This video is going to show you exactly how that filtering system works, why it's invisible to you while it's running, and the single most effective technique for catching it before it locks you into a version of reality that was never accurate in the first place. This isn't about being open-minded. It's about understanding the machinery that makes closed-mindedness feel like clarity. If this is your first time here, this is what neural Ascent does. We explain the actual architecture behind why your mind works the way it does, so you can stop fighting yourself and start building deliberately. If that matters to you, subscribing just means you keep seeing this. Here's the explanation you've probably been given before. You've been told you're stubborn, or rigid, or close-minded. Maybe someone said you only hear what you want to hear, and you nodded politely while internally dismissing it, which, if you think about it, kind of proves their point. But the framing is wrong. Stubbornness implies a choice. It implies that somewhere in the process you're consciously deciding to reject new information, and that if you just tried harder, thought more carefully, or cared more about truth, you'd naturally start seeing things clearly. That's not what's happening. What's happening is pre-conscious. The filtering occurs before you're aware a decision is being made. By the time information reaches the part of your brain that you experience as thinking, it's already been sorted, prioritized, and in many cases discarded. You're not choosing to be biased. You're being handed a pre-edited version of the world and asked to make decisions based on it. The problem was never your effort or your character. The problem is that you're making choices downstream of a system that already decided what you're allowed to consider. The real issue isn't that you won't change your mind. It's that your brain is structurally organized to prevent the conditions under which changing your mind would even occur to you. Think of it like this. Imagine you walk into a library every morning, and every morning the librarian has already removed half the books from the shelves. Not randomly, specifically. Every book that contradicts your favorite subject, every volume that challenges the conclusion you came in with, gone before you arrive. You browse what's left, you read, you feel informed. You walk out more confident than when you walked in, and you have no idea anything was missing. That's your brain. The librarian is a system called confirmation bias, and it's not a flaw. It's a feature that made your ancestors survive, but it was never designed for accuracy. It was designed for speed and consistency. Here's how the mechanism actually operates at the neural level. Your prefrontal cortex, the part of your brain responsible for reasoning and evaluation, doesn't work in a vacuum. It receives input that's already been processed by older, faster systems, primarily the amygdala and the reticular activating system. These systems act as gatekeepers. They determine what gets flagged as relevant, what gets emotional weight, and what gets filtered out entirely. And they make those determinations based on one primary criterion. Does this incoming information match the existing model or not? Information that matches gets amplified. It arrives in your conscious mind with a feeling of rightness, of recognition, of yes, this makes sense. Information that contradicts the existing model triggers a subtle but measurable threat response. Not fear exactly, but discomfort. A low-grade neural alarm that says this doesn't fit. And when that alarm fires, your brain does something remarkable. It doesn't present the contradictory information and let you decide. It buries it. It reduces its salience. It makes it literally harder to notice, harder to remember, and harder to take seriously. This has been measured directly. In a landmark study at Emory University, researchers used fMRI scans to watch people's brains process political information that contradicted their stated beliefs. The reasoning centers of the brain, the areas you'd expect to light up when someone is carefully evaluating evidence, went largely quiet. What lit up instead were the emotional processing centers and the circuits associated with pain relief. When subjects found a way to dismiss the contradictory evidence, their brains released a small burst of dopamine. The same chemical signature has a reward. Your brain doesn't just ignore what challenges your beliefs. It actively rewards you for dismissing it. You get a hit of pleasure every time you successfully defend a position you already hold. That feeling of winning an argument, of reading something that confirms exactly what you thought, of finding the one article that agrees with you after scrolling past 10 that didn't, that's not intellectual satisfaction. That's a dopamine loop. And it's the same loop that drives every habit your brain has ever formed. This is why changing your mind feels so hard. It's not an intellectual problem. It's a neurochemical one. Updating a belief means voluntarily walking into discomfort and away from reward. It means your brain has to override a system that's been running since before language existed. And here's what makes it worse. The stronger the belief, the stronger the filter. Beliefs that are tied to your identity, to how you see yourself, to the groups you belong to the values you've staked your life on, those beliefs have the heaviest neurological protection. The more something matters to you, the less accurately you're able to see it. Marcus Aurelius wrote something almost 2,000 years ago that the neuroscience has only recently confirmed. He said, "Everything we hear is an opinion, not a fact. Everything we see is a perspective, not the truth." He didn't have fMRI technology. He didn't know about the reticular activating system or dopamine loops. But he lived a life where the quality of his decisions determined whether an empire stood or fell, and he arrived at the same conclusion. What you perceive is not what exists. It's what your mind has decided to show you. And unless you build a practice of questioning that presentation, you'll spend your entire life confident and wrong. The mechanism doesn't just shape what you think. It shapes what you see. Literally, your visual processing system, the actual machinery of sight, is influenced by expectation. In studies on inattentional blindness, people consistently fail to notice objects that are physically present in their visual field if those objects don't match what they're looking for. You've probably heard of the invisible gorilla experiment, where subjects watching a basketball game fail to see a person in a gorilla suit walk through the scene. That's not carelessness. That's the architecture of perception. Your brain is constructing your visual experience in real time, and it uses your existing beliefs and expectations as the blueprint. What you expect to see, you see. What you don't expect, you don't. Not because it isn't there, because your brain decided it wasn't relevant before you got a vote. Now bring this home. Think about a belief you've held for years. Maybe it's about what you're capable of. Maybe it's about what kind of person you are in relationships. Maybe it's about what the world rewards and what it punishes. Think about how many times that belief has been confirmed by your experience. Think about how obvious and self-evident it feels. And now consider the possibility that every piece of confirming evidence passed through a filter that was designed to find exactly that evidence and to mute everything else. You haven't been observing reality. You've been building a case, and the verdict was decided before the trial started. There are two traps most people fall into here, and you're likely sitting in one of them right now. The first trap is certainty. You've mistaken the consistency of your experience for proof. Because the same patterns keep showing up in your life, because the same kinds of people keep disappointing you, because the same outcomes keep landing on your doorstep, you've concluded that you understand how things work. But the consistency isn't evidence. It's the filter. Your brain shows you what matches. You act on what you see. Your actions produce outcomes that match, and the loop tightens. You're not observing a pattern in the world. You're creating one and then pointing at it as proof. The second trap is cynicism disguised as awareness. Maybe you've already heard of confirmation bias. Maybe you nod along to videos like this. Maybe you consider yourself someone who questions things. But here's what's tricky. Knowing about the bias doesn't disable it. You can understand the mechanism intellectually and still be completely subject to it. In fact, knowing about it can make it worse, because now you have a new belief. I'm the kind of person who thinks critically, and your brain starts filtering reality to confirm that too. You start noticing other people's biases while remaining blind to your own. You feel smarter, you feel sharper, and you're just as locked in as everyone else. The narrow path between those two traps isn't certainty, and it isn't cynicism. It's something quieter. It's the willingness to feel wrong, not to think about being wrong, not to philosophically entertain the concept of wrongness, to feel it in your chest, in the moment, to notice the discomfort of contradictory information, and to stay there instead of resolving it immediately. That's the path, and it's narrower than it sounds. Most people have never once in their adult life sat with a piece of information that challenged a core belief and simply let it be there without arguing, dismissing, reframing, or contextualizing it into something comfortable. Not once. That isn't a failure of character. That's how powerful the filtering system is. It resolves contradictions so fast you don't even know it happened. So here's what you do, and this is small enough that you can start tonight. Pick one belief you hold strongly. Just one. It could be about yourself, about someone in your life, about how the world works. Anything that feels obviously true to you. Write it down. One sentence. Then, underneath it, write this question. What would I expect to see if this belief were wrong? Not what would prove it wrong. That's too high a bar, and your brain will immediately start arguing. Just, what would the world look like if this weren't true? What evidence might exist that I haven't been looking for? Then spend 5 minutes, just 5, actively looking for that evidence. Search for it. Ask someone who disagrees with you what they see. Read something written by someone who holds the opposite position. And here's the part that matters. When you find something that contradicts your belief, don't evaluate it. Don't argue with it. Don't decide if it's valid. Just notice what happens in your body. Notice the tightness, the impulse to dismiss, the urge to say yes, but that sensation is the filter activating. That's the librarian pulling books off the shelf. And the moment you can feel it happening, you've done something your brain almost never allows. You've caught the machinery in motion. This works because it targets the mechanism at the point of action. You're not trying to override the bias. You can't. It's too fast and too deep. What you're doing is building a secondary awareness, a watcher that sits just behind the filter and notices when it fires. Neuroscience calls this metacognitive monitoring. And every time you practice it, you strengthen the prefrontal circuits that can, over time, delay the automatic dismissal long enough for contradictory information to actually reach conscious evaluation. You're not removing the librarian. You're learning to notice the empty shelves. You don't do this once and become enlightened. You do it once and you crack the door open by a millimeter. You do it again and you crack it a little further. The change isn't dramatic. It's structural. And structural change is the only kind that lasts. Here's what this is really about. It was never about stubbornness. It was never about intelligence or effort or willpower. It was about the fact that you've been navigating the world using a map your brain drew when you were too young to question it. And every day since then, your perceptual system has been redrawing that map to match itself. You didn't choose the filter. You inherited it. And you've been acting on filtered information your whole life while believing you were seeing things clearly. The moment you understand that, something shifts, not because you suddenly see the truth, but because you stop assuming you already do. And that's not a loss. That's the beginning of actually being able to learn. You're not pattern locked because something is wrong with you. You're pattern locked because your brain is doing exactly what it was built to do. The question was never whether the filter exists. The question is whether you'll be the one who finally notices it running.